This week's episode was brought to you by Harridan, Ryan, and John Michael Hatch. Thank you, Harridan, Ryan, and John Michael Hatch. It's with the generous support of illustrious listeners like you that our ragtag band of bunny rocket raiders are souped up with the latest high-tech gear that has been upgraded to dispatch vampires, werewolves, witches, trolls, toad people, Batman, goat walkers, soup Nazis, soup communists, soup thieves, soup saboteurs, and Frodophiles. If you'd like to help bolster the ranks of our rabbit defenders of reality, or just hear the second half of this episode, then please visit www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit, where your monthly donation of just $5 will not only get you the extended version of this episode, but every single one of our chaotic, unhinged, batshit crazy episodes stretching back into the aeons of regret and bad decisions. But not only that, I'll send you a 5x5 high-quality vinyl sticker of our Big Bunny Baphomet cover art and the high-tech digital access card we use to access our Discord server, where myself and Hecka will yell at you if you don't play nice. We also have a $10 tier, which comes with our voluminous amount of show notes we produce every week. At $20, you get a monthly tarot reading, which still might be the best deal on the internet. I still have a few slots left, so get them while they're hot. In this week's episode, we dive into part 2 of our review and discussion of Phil Hine's Chaos Magic classic, Condensed Chaos. In the first half, we tackle the D.R.A.T formula and why relaxation is an underappreciated talent of the magus. We discover powerful secrets to hacking our emotional feedback loops, shifting our meat gears, and how to do a path working of pretty much anything, but especially tarot cards. We'll even talk about how to activate the dreaded Star Chamber of Chaos, a magical tool that will do pretty much anything. You know how much chaos we can fit under the hood. In the extended episode, we explore the features of the magical will and embark on a tour of Phil Hine's S.P.L.I.F.F formula of sigilization. Before wrapping up, we break into the toy box of the magus, see what unexpected tools the chaos magician may use, and why play and fun are an essential part of the formula. Special shout out to FeedSpot, which featured us in the top 20 occult podcasts on the whole internet, and currently we're hovering around 19 or 20. Cryptic Chronicles is at like 12, so we're actually doing pretty good. And really, we have you to thank for that. So thank you for getting us here. It's been 6 years, and if it's up to me, I'd like to spend more time, money, and energy making this show as weird as possible and entertaining and informative as possible. And as long as we keep slowly growing, I think we're gonna make it. So thank you again, everybody. Now let's enjoy the show. I wanted to make a joke about philosophy, but I just can't.
Okay.
I just finished a college degree in philosophy, in fact. So
Yeah.
Now I'm qualified to ask why you want fries with that. How do you get a philosophy student off your porch?
How?
Thank you for the pizza.
You know, I took a philosophy course once, and now I can think deep thoughts about being unemployed.
Well, don't remind me.
All right, so what do you call a monk with a philosophy degree?
What?
A deep fryer. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Whole Rabbit, where we don't just tell you in short format how to jerk off on sigils to manifest a parasitic spiritual relationship with that hot waifu succubus you've built into a planet-sized Lovecraftian abomination on the astral, and you're now chained to her through a city-sized ovaries by a 5-dimensional noose made of the devil's USB cables. Nay, we dive back into the densely packed hypersphere of pre-manifest primordial chaos from between the cracks of consensus reality and burst out like a xenomorphic deity from the egg of the next universe, because this week we're discussing part 2 of Phil Hine's Chaos Magic classic, Condensed Chaos.
Woo!
I'm your host, Luke Madrid, also known as Hack Rabbit. I'm joined this week by our holy hosts, the matriarchal dog queen of the moon full of sparkle doom, Marisama.
Yeah, slay.
The prince, priest, the beast, Malachor 5.
What's up?
And the hidden self-generated first appearing one, Heka Astra.
Hello.
So where were we?
We ended the last episode with going through the letters of chaos and what they stood for.
Yes, S was for sensitivity.
Ouch.
I think everyone's taking it too literally.
No.
So, if you felt like last week was too much of a tease, here we commence the bona fide, actual magic practices that will begin to draw back the shades of consensus reality and allow the seeker to propel themselves into the subtle dimension of magical perception and awareness. All you have to remember is the magic phrase, DRAT.
Sounds fast.
Drat? Like, oh, drat?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not like, oh, dang?
No.
Oh, drat?
Yeah, it's an acronym.
Hine explains.
The keys to becoming a magician are relatively simple. So simple, in fact, that people tend to overlook them in search of complex systems of belief and abstraction. An example of such simplicity is the D.R.A.T formula for action.
DRAT, discipline, relaxation, attention, and transformation. It is explained that DRAT can be applied to a variety of different life situations, but is best used for new skills and abilities, which require practice and repetition.
Require what?
Repetition.
Require
Tissue.
what?
Ooh, all right.
Now, in theory, the DRAT formula works like a key to expanding one's magical practice. And it can work with any exercise or ability. It's kind of an all-around thing. So the D, you filthy minds, stands for discipline. Without some discipline, you can't truly claim to be a magician. Discipline, after all, is what is required to conquer the greatest magical adversary, which Phil Hine says is inertia.
Inertia is a property of matter.
Ever wonder what the universe is made of? Well, the universe is made of stuff.
It's also a property of the psyche. But all said, it doesn't hurt to have a goal to work towards. And it also doesn't hurt to know the correct way to do it. If we can trust ourselves to have good discipline, we can count on the other keys to drive us forward. So you have to try. You have to make an effort. In fact, if it's a little uncomfortable, you know you're getting stronger by doing it. Meditation is supposed to suck. That feeling like you're gonna die, like I can't do this anymore, that means it's working. You think I'm kidding, I'm not. Which actually blends well with the next letter in the DRAT formula, which is R for relaxation. So really, to make the most of our discipline, you have to be relaxed and in the moment. And that way you can be unfettered by the lust of result or, God forbid, performance anxiety.
Feel yourself sinking into the sofa.
I'm relaxed! Can't you tell?
Allow your spirit to not feel like it's tied to your body. Float up and into your imagination.
Serenity now.
Serenity now. Relax, Hine.
Whoa.
That scared the shit out of me. So Hine explains, relaxation technique rests on the skill of uniting thought, breath, and action. On a very practical level, it requires that we understand the relationship between thoughts, feelings, and physiological changes in the body.
This makes a lot of sense to me. You're essentially using your body like a giant antenna.
Right. And if you're thinking about the future or the past, the now moment, you're not going to be able to modify the antenna until it gets the perfect signal because you're not paying attention to it.
Because your body's in the now.
And that's all it can really recognize.
And like if you're all tense, right? And you're overly wound up, the energy won't flow and you can't connect or tap into it. And like we explained last week, it's okay if you're nervous, but the more you relax into your nervousness, the more you can transform that energy into something useful.
So if you combine that with the discipline from the previous letter, it kind of means that discipline isn't uptight in its expression.
No, it's in the moment. It's focused in the moment. So that kind of makes sense. You know, you call somebody a tryhard. That's the intuitive understanding of why that's an insult. So relaxation really goes paired with the next one. A for attention. Being relaxed allows our attention to penetrate deeper, and this allows us to have a more complex functioning, which is often what mastery requires. So the more relaxed you are, the more you can pay attention. The more you pay attention, well, the more effective you're going to be. So Hine explains when all of these combine, discipline, relaxation, and attention, a demon is given a pitchfork, our power level increases, and we get to spend one new point on the skill tree.
Level up.
Once we know the formula, we can use DRAT to sink deeper into other exercises, which we then can broaden out through practice and arrive at magical domains. So as we may have let on, this brings us to body-mind training. Now, being connected to our body is a bit more important than our culture tends to give it credit for. Hine points out that we tend to think of our bodies as something that carries our minds. But really, it would be truer to say that our entire body is our mind. 30 years after this book was written, we live more in a realm of mental abstraction than ever, approaching a new world order where absolutely everything will be monetized and digitized, put on a screen. The way to combat this, he says, is to learn, here we go again, can you guess? Relaxation! And there's some solid reasoning at work here. So if we're to affect the universe with our bodies and minds, it stands to reason that we should first be able to control our bodies and minds. For the Luciferian inclined, we might refer to the body as the Temple of Nine Gates, the way through which we experience the mystery of the universe. On a more practical level, by the time we reach the Kingdom of Shadows, we'd hopefully have mastered, at least to some extent, the art of managing our stress. Or at least by then, hopefully we become skilled at listening to our body to know what it's telling us. You know in Star Wars,
Oh gosh.
how they do the fact checking?
No, you go on.
It's search your feelings, right?
You know it to be true.
I was gonna say that.
Know it to be true. It's because it incorporates this idea that on some level, probably through our body, like our bodies is our like ego emotional complex, it can detect it on some level. So if we're in touch with ourselves, right? So
I mean, this kind of sounds similar to one of my, philosophical theories. You brought up Star Wars, and I guess I'll riff off of that. When Luke's doing the trench run and he's trying to shoot the missile into the tiny hole on the Death Star's exterior, he's trying to use the starship's targeting system, right? And then he hears Obi-Wan's voice like, "Oh, use the Force, Luke." What I'm trying to say here is that like all the devices and all the abilities that we find in the devices and the inventions and the tools we use, it is present within our minds and our body, therefore, like before it's even created. So like a targeting system, it exists in your brain, and it's probably more powerful than the one in the starship.
Right. It works off of intuition, not calculated, just meticulous math and logic. It works with a feeling of like that's what the Force is, basically.
This topic was brought up briefly recently in our Discord, basically that you have an entire system that communicates across multiple systems within yourself. So you have your gut, heart, and brain connection, and each one of them functions of its own accord and communicates across to the others. And it is linked to gut feelings that you have, which is pretty interesting.
your enteric nervous system, which I think is complementary to your sympathetic and parasympathetic.
And your heart itself has like a little brain that it communicates to your brain.
So does your guts, literally.
Well, the targeting computer is a great metaphor because as long as he's like squinting into the machine, he's going to miss. He has to just feel it. He has to relax.
Because the targeting system is kind of symbolic of using just your brain.
Right. Just the logic circuits and not tapping into, it's been called like the right brain, which is your creative and like subconscious and intuition. So you have to allow them to work together. You can't just be leaning on one or the other.
And I remember reading in the biography of Yogananda, there's a whole story that ends with the lesson that it's one thing to be able to fight a tiger with your bare hands, but it's even harder to control your own mind. And we find the same sentiment reflected here in Condensed Chaos because let's say you're like me and you're wound up, you're stressed out easy, you have to be able to manage your stress. Because if you can't, it's going to be a lot harder to be in contact with your relaxed self, with your relaxed in the moment awareness. Because anxiety, you're projecting into the future, right? So Hine explains how the anxiety loop works so we can short circuit it, basically.
I was just going to say before we move forward that this links back in what you're saying to discipline, the first letter.
Of not letting your thoughts float outside the now moment. Yeah.
Yeah, because what you're describing right now is using your attention alongside your discipline.
Yes, so this would be the discipline for getting the anxiety loop smashed. Is that a good word for that? I don't know. So first, stress factors lead to physiological arousal. This usually corresponds with a thought space of.
Oh, I get upset when this happens.
Secondly, the arousal is interpreted as anxiety.
As expected, I'm getting anxious.
Thirdly, the identification of the physiological arousal as anxiety triggers negative self-statements, such as,
Oh no, I'm gonna be sick.
or I'm finna crash out.
Or pass out. I've had that feeling too.
Yeah, but I'm hip.
Yeah, you sure are.
Cowabunga.
No cap. For real. On God.
No, I'm on fleek, dog.
That's so skibbity.
So far, it kind of sounds like these are all related directly to action with conscious awareness.
Yes, and it's a negative loop because it feeds into itself until you spiral out, and we can all be subject to it. Now, he says there's three components. There's the physical, so to combat that, we need to learn to breathe deeply and easily, and we can learn this from just about any meditation guide that's out there on the internet for free. Then there's the cognitive element.
Hine says, this relates to thoughts and feelings which arise out of physiological changes. It is necessary to be able to identify these habituated thoughts and change them. Much Much has been written in the New Age movement about positive thinking and affirmations, and these concepts should not be discounted.
Yeah, think positive, man. Stop being so negative. Thirdly is the behavioral element, because often the way we respond to a stressful situation is inadequate or inappropriate. Trust me, I would know.
Same here. And Hine says about this, as a simple exercise in widening body awareness, attempt to focus your attention onto distinct areas of your body. It is very easy to start this when you're completely relaxed, focusing awareness into your fingertips or your toes. You can also try this exercise anywhere. If, for example, you are standing up and very aware of your aching feet, try awareness to your armpit or the backs of your knees. You can develop this exercise further by attempting to cast your awareness behind your back or across as much of your body surface as possible. This actually works. I use this when I'm like really itchy and I can't scratch myself.
Something that I like to do is when I'm walking around, I try to be aware of my posture and my entire spine, what it's doing all the way up to the crown of my head. And sometimes just like getting awareness of what your spine is doing and what your posture is doing makes you aware of how the rest of your body is affected by your posture.
Oh yeah, like when my hips or feet hurt, it's generally because I'm slumping and my shoulders are all bunched up together. So if I focus on loosening my shoulders, eventually my hip pain goes away.
My old Sifu used to say that like a really good, easy way to correct your posture into a healthy posture is to imagine there's like a string at the crown of your head and someone's just like pulling up on that string, and then you just release the rest of your body and allow it to just fall from that.
Feels so
And
good.
it works so well.
So it's just as you're saying. You have to assess, do you sit funny? Are you a habitual sloucher? Do you notice that whenever one of your coworkers talks, you find yourself leaning away? Under the right conditions, you might even fall out of your chair. Try different ways of walking. Try a confident stride or a saucy swagger. Does walking or holding yourself differently change the way you feel or behave? If they do, adopt postures that suit your goals.
You know what else I like to do is when I catch myself with that posture and I go through that whole thing, it's like right after that, I like to, while I feel like I'm, my body's dangling from the crown of my head, I like to do these little like hip wiggles. It actually helps to loosen up your body and keep that relaxation. I try to make it so that my neighbors don't see me doing this because you look like a freak doing it. But yeah, do like little hip wiggles, rotate them around, play around with directions and stuff. And it does a lot for you.
Just do the funny walk as you walk down the street. Just walk in the most random, rhythmless, awkward way possible.
Why not?
See
Why
how it makes you
not?
feel.
Just straight up ragdoll on the sidewalk.
Or Subway.
Someone's like, what are you doing? Chaos magic.
I like walking backwards. I used to do this a lot more, but like I would walk in a circle. I would turn myself around while walking in a straight line, which is like really interesting. It's hard to do, but like you really get focused in on your body.
You could just tell people that it's essentially Qigong. It's
Yeah, I'm doing Tai Chi over here. Let me.
So like an actual Qigong exercise that you can do is vibratory Qigong. And that's like you stand with your feet shoulder width apart. And it's vibratory Qigong because your entire body, you just let it vibrate, like vibrate. And you can take it further too as well to like feeling the vibration in different parts of your bodies with your hands. So like as your entire body is vibrating and shaking, you like use your hands to feel over like your arms and your legs, your head and your heart. And it kind of like helps you check in with what's going on with all of your body while simultaneously relaxing it.
What's doing the vibrating exactly?
You. So you are actually physically vibrating your body. You're doing like quick compressions and stretching like simultaneously of like your knees, your elbows, your spine, your hips. Like you are making your whole body vibrate. And while you're doing this, you're using your arms and your hands at a slight distance, like not touching, but just in front of. And you're kind of scanning your whole body with your hands as you're doing this vibration. And you're checking in with different parts of your body as to what you're doing. This is actually a kind of Qigong, and it looks silly as if you do it.
Like a possessed person doing Reiki on themselves.
I was going to say, it sounds like self-Reiki.
Yeah, but like you're standing, and this is just like one of many, many forms of Qigong. But yeah, it helps you check in with awareness in your body, and it helps your whole body to loosen up.
Yeah, you can find the knots and relax them quicker.
And get the police called on you.
At least your chi will be flowing by the time they arrest you.
Flowing into solitary confinement.
What you doing? Qigong and chaos magic.
The next thing we're to keep in mind is to do easy, and that pertains to all areas of life. We should aim to work smarter, not harder.
Hine states, as an extension of relaxation training, examine any action that you make, no matter how simple, and find the easiest way of doing it. Apply this method to everyday actions: dressing, undressing, picking up objects, performing routine tasks. You will find yourself expending much less energy and being aware of what you're doing rather than rushing through a task while your thoughts are projecting into a future beyond the task. When you touch something, pay attention to the brush of your fingers upon it. Feel the object through your fingers and move it with just the right amount of energy. Look at the objects with a cool appraisal and visualize what you want to do with it and find the easiest way to do it.
Relevant to our episode last week, Hine declares that while we often experience time as a separate dimension, it's really a byproduct of consciousness. He says,
We are constantly moving backwards and forwards in terms of experienced past memory and anticipated futures or fantasies. Although much of magical practice is concerned with the ability to remain in the immediate present, it is also useful to be able to make use of our personal past and futures.
Here is outlined a method of evocation of emotion through memory, which works by vividly imagining significant moments of the past and forming a gestalt of different sensorial cues therein. This can be a powerful experience. If we have unfinished business with someone, perhaps, we can evoke the memory of someone to emotional potency and hold a much needed conversation with them. So like, you go back in your memory and you remember like every little detail. It's sort of an act of evocation when you do that. Doing this, we also have the ability to liberate emotions from triggers by first evoking the trigger and then refocusing on intensifying the emotion it has evoked. And then we allow the trigger to fade away. So he says this is like you're liberating the emotion from the trigger by doing this.
I think also if you have discipline going into this, you can choose a healthier reaction to that. And you can actually change the reaction to the trigger. I think that in itself is magic, being able to transmute it into something else.
It doesn't sound super duper magic, but when it comes to your actual life, it is, you know. Now, fantasy, we are told, is ultimately how we move forward in time. And should we become depressed or overly anxious, our fantasies have become akin to nightmares.
I will eat my neighbors.
Similarly, new aeons, as we just discussed in our previous episodes, they always seem curiously out of reach, always just beyond the horizon. And it's the domain of the chaos magician on skillfully manifesting the best possible outcomes in alignment with one's will, not necessarily clinging to nebulous eschatological pipe dreams. You know what I mean? Like, you're trying to make your life now, in the here and now, better. You're trying to make your resume improved. You know, you don't always have to be working towards being the king of space or whatever. How about focusing on being a magician that can pay the rent, huh? That's the chaos magic approach, you could say.
Oh man, I'm trying.
All right, so this next thing is some really weird chaos magic-y thing to do. It's called lateral diaries.
I thought you said lateral diarrhea, and I was like, that sounds bad.
That would be bad.
As an extension of the magical diary experiment with a record divided into 4 columns. In the first column, record the physical elements of a journey or situation. In the second column, record any memories which arose during this time. In the third column, record any fragments of reading, phrases from a book, newspaper, or advertisement. And in the fourth, any snatches of conversation you may have overheard. This practice will demonstrate the non-linear connections between events that we often censor from awareness.
Now just be warned, if your boss or your partner finds these little slips of paper that you've written these things on, they're gonna know you're crazy. So if you've been warned.
I want to add punctuation to this so badly.
Dale, what's this note in your back pocket about having pancake thoughts while you're thinking about Gemini stories? Why are you listening to the radio at work, Dale? That's probably why you've been passed over for promotion. We're broke, Dale.
I don't know why he quoted me as saying the toilet doesn't clean itself.
All right, so if you do this exercise, please share your results in the Discord. I'm curious. And this brings us now to the shades of perception. Sounds like a magic pair of glasses. In fact, in chaos magic, our perception comes in shades. It behaves according to moods, environment, and cognition. As such, we may learn how to narrow or widen our perception. I particularly enjoy the following exercises and have found them useful when either, quote, manifesting or during the casting of a spell, let's say during ritual. The first to sensory enhancement. Now, during sensory enhancement, we will explore each of the 5 senses. A sensorial pentagram, if you will. The first is object concentration. This is the ability to stare at an object until it burns into your retina and you transcend the boundaries of time and space in cosmic unity with said object. At least that's been my experience of it. Basically, you just want to stare at it. I always mention this when people ask, well, what works as good as fapping? This works as good as fapping. If you make a sigil and you stare at it unwaveringly and unblinkingly until it burns into your eyes, it's probably going to work.
You know, when you stare at something for so long that even if you close your eyes, you have like the outline of it.
Yeah, we've all done it with that weird Jesus thing. You know what I'm talking about?
It's true.
For how little preparation and energy it requires, the effects are fairly significant. I think the Golden Dawn even does this to some extent. Like, you can draw the sigil in the opposite color, and then when you close your eyes, the color will be reversed. So if you want a green sigil of Venus, you would draw it in red on your piece of paper, then stare at it, and then when you close your eyes, it's green! And then you can project that during your ritual into the astral. And staring, it's a good tool. Of course, eyesight is traditionally associated with the element of fire, so that's one explanation for why manifestation would work so quickly, because fire is quick. Next is visualization. Visualize! A magician must be able to visualize. If you struggle doing it, like me, you should begin by imagining simple forms and work up to more detailed scenes. Hine suggests we explore our relationship to color. Many of us experience colors differently. I know Mal feels passionately about the color brown.
I'm not sure why.
No, because you're saying there's always haters, and that how if you really spend time with brown, you'll realize it's just more orange. You've said that, right?
I don't remember if I did.
I thought he liked green.
I do like green.
I think
I'm
about
blue.
this all the time.
you know,
said this, Mal, and now I think
actually-
about it all the time. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, brown is orange.
It's dark orange. Yeah.
I think I actually do remember this conversation that you're referencing.
I don't remember shit.
Well, guess what? Happens to be brown.
I have CRS. Can't remember shit.
It was the same conversation that we were talking about how black is also more often than not just a very, very, very dark shade of blue.
Because you can get kind of a brownish color, like a burnt, toasted color in the sunset. You'd be like, oh, no, it's orange. Like, maybe it's brown. It's like the sunsets are a little different wherever you go. And they actually are different. There's different chemicals and stuff in different places. As erudite as that was, you get what I'm saying. It's these subtle things that you want to pay attention to as a magician. And it'll deepen your experience of life and your magic, too.
Yeah, like one thing I love doing, because I'm like so into color theory, I like to visually kind of parse out colors that are like perfectly between two distinct colors. I remember one of my first favorite colors was periwinkle because it was indistinguishable between blue and purple.
Yeah.
Oh.
But there are certain colors that kind of like they're the space that's undefined in your language. Like, for example, in Japanese, there's really no word for green. It just means like a certain shade of blue. Their word for green.
Ah.
But then also we've taken their word for green melon, Midori, and we use that as a color name. So there's a lot of crossover with language and how we describe color and then how we experience it. So it's kind of interesting to get to those places where they're kind of undefined.
You know what I think also adds to your magical practice is making friends with colors that you naturally don't like.
Oh, like how I
So,
look
like-
great in yellow, but I hate yellow.
So, like, for me, I have never liked pink or yellow. And it took me a long time to come to terms with them. But once you're friends with those colors and you find ways to appreciate them, it actually can pump up your association to specific energies that you're working with. And I think that's also pretty chaos magic-y.
Yeah, like I hate bubblegum pink, but fuchsia I'm
Yeah.
down with because it's closer to red and purple.
I love all colors now.
I think colors are inherently magic. For some reason, they just are.
Yeah.
Like, go buy a really high quality paint and really play with it and look at it and really see how it makes you feel. Like, when I was a kid, I remember you could almost taste colors. Maybe not so much anymore.
Taste the rainbow.
But that's the level we want to get on.
Kool-Aid.
The colors, Duke. The colors.
Now, smell is also a powerful sense, as anyone with a functioning nose will tell you. Basically, if you smell something, it can immediately bring you back in time, emotionally, mentally, where you first made that association. And this can anchor us to different energies, and then we can use those in ritual. If you want like all the traditional associations, check out Aleister Crowley's Liber 777. Don't read it start to finish, but now you know what you're gonna find when you get there.
Oh, I have one of these, not only perfume, but I remember finding an incense when I was a kid in a store in the mall called After the Rain, and it has that ozone smell, like that perfect wet dirt smell. And I love that incense so much that I've kept it for like over 20 years. And I only burn a stick when I'm doing a ritual, but it really brings me back. It locks me into that moment of like, oh, this is that smell that I like after the rain.
That's a pretty top tier smell.
Apparently it's called petrichor.
So if you're using the same smell to anchor you back, that's how you're supposed to use it when you're a magician, right? You have a smell that corresponds to you relaxing and paying attention and getting into your ritual mind state, let's say. I feel like it's worth mentioning that the olfactory sense, it bypasses all of the normal perceptual filters the rest of your senses go through, and it almost makes it the most true sense. It's the one that's lying to you the least, and it's the one you have the least like ability to overlook or deny. And I think in a magical sense, I can think of one place in fiction where this gets used quite a bit, and it's in the popular anime Demon Slayer. The main character has a very advanced sense of smell, which demon slayers are supposed to hone. And it's been my experience that like spirits sometimes do have a smell, or there's certain smells that correspond to certain energy phases, or like you can kind of smell fear. Like people smell different when they're afraid. All that stuff matters. You know, you have to decide what that means to you, but like demons do have a smell sometimes. Let's just, you know.
It's like when people have Bigfoot encounters and they're like, I wanted to leave, it felt bad, and there was a smell. Like the two things were connected.
And some people can smell early onset Alzheimer's disease, stuff like that.
Animals can too, yeah.
Smell matters. It does. It's weird to say, but you know. And of course, for those bunnies in the audience, you want to use your ears. Listen to the pitch of people's voice.
Is there a difference between what people say and how they say it?
This is a fun one. How many different sounds can you hear if you sit perfectly still? Keep track. If you're in a perfectly quiet room, you'll probably be surprised how many sounds you hear. And like, have you heard how you sound in a recording? It's kind of fun exercise to do.
I sound like a chipmunk.
I sound like, I don't know. I just don't sound like how I think I sound in my head.
That's the case for most people. And you want to explore the world of touch. So you're aware of the objects that you're physically touching. How do they feel? Are they heavy? You know, the fabrics we're wearing, how do they make us feel? You want to start to pay attention to that stuff. And eating, you really want to get into eating. So instead of just rushing through your food, you want to pay attention. So you need to go out, eat a succulent Chinese meal, really pay attention to the aroma, the taste, the experience of eating the food. Let it totally envelop you. A few days later, recall how it made you feel.
So like when you over masticate your food, you over chew your food, and then the juices of the food become one with the saliva inside of your mouth, and you're like really taking in the experience.
Do you have obscure memories that just never fade? Because this whole section of the text reminds me of one. One day, I was with some friends doing the Day of the Dead type photo shoot thing, and before leaving to go to the park for the photo shoot, golden hour was coming up and everyone was eating snacks. And so the ladies there were eating yogurt, and one of them was enjoying it quite a bit. Now later at the park, she's like smiling, she's gazing into the sky, she has this look of bliss on her whole being, you know, and she's totally unresponsive to the conversation. And after a short while, she like kind of like breaks her trance she's in. She puts her gaze down and she tells us all with like a hint of shame in her voice, sorry, I was having yogurt memories.
That's so cute.
Yogurt memories. That's gonna live rent-free in my head forever. But essentially, as a good magician, you want to be more like the girl with the yogurt memories.
Yeah, and you don't have to feel ashamed about it.
No, you don't. Even if some guy talks about it on a podcast 15 years later or whatever.
It's a beautiful thing.
I've gotten into certain phases in my life where every meal tastes like the best thing I've ever eaten. That's where you want to be, if you can help it. Also, butter helps. Buy the good yogurt.
Fat is flavor.
Greek yogurt.
Full fat yogurt with cream on top.
So this brings us to perceptual gestalts, which is a very fancy sounding phrase. It says in the text,
although we tend to isolate each sensory modality, our actual experience is that of a gestalt or a whole. I'm writing this sentence, eating a biscuit, aware of the chair against my body, listening to cars pass outside the window, and aware of the room temperature. Although the imaginative faculty tends to be discussed as primary visual, we can also, of course, evoke tastes, proprioceptive of pressure and temperature, kinesthetic actions, or orient of the body in space, smell, sounds, and tastes.
Assembling scenes with all of these elements in one's mind constitutes what wizard folk refer to as, quote, pathworking, and allows a magician to interact with dimensions of self and the universe. For instance, the way it's usually mentioned in magical circles is you can enter the world of the tarot by projecting yourself through visualizing the elements that you see in the card, and then you experience them firsthand thereby. So if you were the fool, you might feel a lot of gusting air and craggy rocks below your feet. You hear a tiny dog scampering behind you and the weight of a rucksack pole resting against your shoulder. This sort of thing can be done consciously in a highly organized manner, but sometimes it just happens while we're daydreaming or thinking about something else.
So this is like visualizing, but you're at the holodeck level of clarity.
Yes.
Where you feel, taste, touch, and smell everything as well as see it.
And so there's supposed to be magical effects associated with doing this into tarot cards, and in the Golden Dawn, they call it pathworking, and here Hine is expanding it out to be pretty much anything. He says,
Pathworkings can also be designed which have free areas for scrying, talking to entities, or performing enchantments. You can essentially visualize your circle within your own mind space and do your rituals in your own head, and it still has the same effect as in real life.
yes. Then there's kinesthetic memory. We're really getting into the body now. You put your awareness on your orientation in space, how your muscles work together, and the more you heighten your awareness of your physical body, the more you're heightening your awareness of your body of light, your astral body, or double. Hine says,
Raise your left arm slowly, being aware of changes in muscles, the slight air resistance, and the movements of the joints and bones. Do this a few times, and then vividly invoke those sensations while imagining that you are raising your left arm. Try this until you can experience raising your kinesthetic arm almost as vividly as raising your real left arm. If you continue to try this practice with a range of body movements and orientations, you will find eventually that you can move freely around in this body. The double has a great deal of magical applications. It can be used to rehearse potentially difficult situations or tasks as an extension of relaxation and do easy. It can also be used in shapeshifting and invocation, see Chapter 8, and also in the exploration of dream and liminal trances. I found that, I've exercised before and that does help, but one exercise regimen that I found connected me to this most acute is CrossFit and weightlifting, like doing the full body barbell weightlifting.
yeah.
That stuff really got me into this kinesthetic practice where you're having to focus so much on how your body is oriented so you don't like kill yourself with the weights and like you don't work yourself to exhaustion and stuff. You have to like be totally in tune in the now moment with your body. It really helped me make a more meaningful connection with the body. And so I could see how he's saying that you have to do this in real practice in order to maintain this astral double body.
Yeah.
So that you're able to function on the astral plane when you do project.
So what he's saying, like, as you imagine it, as you vividly imagine it, you are feeling your astral double do those things. Like, you're actually using your astral double.
Yeah, and it can affect your endocrine system. Like, you can actually exert certain chemicals and, like, growth hormone and stuff on a minute scale if you do this practice in meditation. It's just very interesting to me.
And it is like the Matrix, where whatever you imagine, your body sort of, like, responds to it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is something you kind of brought up earlier. You were hinting at it, the astral temple. So when the skills associated with perceptual gestalt and kinesthetic memory have been tapped, then we can move on to the creation of an astral temple. And while the Hermetic and Masonic traditions have a formula for how these ought to work, it's really up to you for how you want your temple to look. Heck, your astral temple could be a spaceship, a dreary sex cave dungeon, or, as Hine suggests, a cyberspace zone. The limits of this place is purely up to your imagination, but with practice, it can become a refuge and a launching point for spells and other works of magic. But what if we really want to get, chaos magic? Well, that's why we have the Star Chamber. The Star Chamber is some classic Melchizedek star tetrahedron style Merkava vehicle of light, but with black neon light and drum and bass.
More like Tron.
Yes, it's described as a transparent crystal ball suspended in deep space. Its dimensions are capable of being enlarged to suit different requirements. To enter the sphere, one imagines a shimmering 8-rayed chaos star in front of you, which draws you into its chamber through a whirling vortex. In the center is a crystalline pillar, which is set at waist height. Touching the pillar causes a burst of purple light, and you have full control over its functions. Within the star chamber, you may travel to different places throughout the multiverse, and it serves as an astral temple on the go.
So it's like a simulation box that you run in Linux so that you can run Windows and Mac.
Yes, that is essentially what it is.
As the book says, you can move to any point in time, space, by placing your hands on the control pillar and asserting your will. You can also extrude various devices from the walls of a chamber to perform different tasks. Globes for scrying and generating servitors, bizarre energy projectors for the projection of desires, or baffles and collectors for collecting the radiation of black holes.
What are you supposed to do with the energy from black holes?
Use it for more creation?
Yeah.
The ladies are like, duh. What do you do with your energy of black holes?
It's it's prime for repurposing.
I was going to say, technically, it's just obliterated matter that's written in information encoded on the surface of the black hole, so it radiates that out, and if you're taking that, it's basically creation energy, yeah.
I kind of think of it like you've been given a bowl of zeros and ones. What do you want to make out of it?
Hey kids, want to see something really f***ed up? Yeah.
Make anything.
An
It's called
enchilada.
recycling.
I want an enchilada out of it. Black hole enchilada.
We can make that happen.
Yep.
So while you may not first notice it, throughout the day, we tend to shift through different shades of perception, continuously in fact moving from daydream to fantasy to concentrating on a difficult task, listening to music, or being absorbed in a situation so thoroughly that time melts into nothing. While these do not sound as exotic as the name seems to suggest, these are various different forms of trance. Using trance states for magic is one of the magician's most valuable skills. Most routes into trance can be classified into two categories, as they often are in books of this sort, between excitatory and inhibitory.
Also, for us ADHD people, flow states.
Beginning with excitatory. Excitatory is when you're so overwhelmed, hyper-stimulating stuff that it builds to an ecstatic peak, wherein anything other than what is held in the mind as a projection of the will just collapses. It's here that spells and intentions can be launched or cast into the great beyond, or, if you want to think of it this way, the deep subconscious, where they can take roots to be manifested later.
So you should cast spells when you're on the cusp of the tallest roller coaster?
Yes, that is exactly like right when the drop starts and you're like, you
so
want to
fun.
be thinking very intensely of your sigil. That would be how to launch during an excitatory state of mind. Now, what about inhibitory? This is what it says.
Inhibitory techniques work the opposite and serve to disturb the boundaries of the ego sense through sensory deprivation, sleeplessness, fasting, or slow rhythmic breathing. All these techniques have distinct physiological effects and demonstrate that the physical awareness is a prime necessity for magic. A problem that we acquire from our culture is that we tend to be very head-oriented in our experience, caught up with the continual commentary of the inner dialogue and the words and images of the hyper-real. Our sense of being a stable personality is maintained by transactions, both real and imaginary, with others. Move somewhere isolated and the self becomes more malleable, another classical magical gambit for entering trance states. The personality we acquire sets the limits on what we can and cannot do. Often, by entering trance states, whether intentionally or not, we can perform feats or tasks that are normally outside our normal repertoire.
While going into a trance does sound neato, we know from our biographical studies of Edgar Cayce that if you just go into trance all willy-nilly, doctors could poke you with needles, you may act or behave funny or out of character, as Cayce was prone to do at times, or possibly, if you're deep enough in trance, you may never know if you farted loudly or not. You have to go your whole life never knowing, as Hine says.
Magicians have, over the ages, resorted to drugs, physical exertion, or prolonged ritual to temporarily blot out the personality, making possession easier.
Here one might ask, pray tell, Mr. Rabbit Podcast Man, why shouldst thou wishest to enter thereby into a state of trance? What benefits may one profit thereby? According to Phil Hine, there are a number of good reasons. The first
Knowledge.
Yes, knowledge. To bring up Edgar Cayce again, this was his whole bag. By entering into a trance, Edgar Cayce suddenly was possessed of supernatural knowledge. He could find missing objects reliably, or even heal people. The second reason for entering into trance or becoming possessed is the enhancement of abilities. Possession by a nerd angel gives us greater academic prowess, and even perhaps a temporary sway over the time-bending library fairy who always leads us exactly to the right book. In Star Wars, Jedis are capable of receiving the abilities of the dead masters that they've studied over, which they call force possession. A Essentially, trance has the ability to give us more abilities. Hine has a story of him doing this himself.
For example, I have a client who had a recurring throat problem. I examined her in a light vision trance and saw a toad-like creature that had swelled itself up and lodged in her throat. Throat toads. No way was it going to come out willingly. My allies advised me, again in trance, that the only entity the spirit would take notice of was an even bigger toad. So we performed a healing ceremony, which I became possessed by a bigger toad to interact with the one in my client's throat.
Sometimes you gotta fight toads with toads.
It's just, you turn into Pepe? That's crazy.
I like how the frog in the throat is like a literal symbol. Like it's taken literally, but also then applied to symbolically. It's just kind of funny.
Now, the third reason you would submit yourself to being possessed or entering trance is communal ecstasy. Now, in theory, an advanced practitioner would be able to lead a group through a spiritual journey, which might be as simple as leading an enchanted journey through the park to summon UFOs with toning bowls during a CE5 session, all the way up to leading a group through a sweat or a journey through the underworld. As Edgar Casey's career evolved, it shifted from using trance for the enhancement of ability to the purpose of communicable ecstasy more and more in what his spirits called the work. So it's like he had to get people on the hook with the medical stuff, but really the spirits he worked with were saying like, that's your true job, is the communal ecstasy bit, which I think is kind of fun. And of course, if you listen to Stephen Greer, that's his calling in life, is to use communal ecstasy to make the UFOs show up, as if Parliament didn't do it first. Now, the fourth reason you'd submit to trance is connectivity. This is explained as finding hidden links or connections, something we love to do on this show. Hine says,
I often enter a trance state to overcome writer's block, letting fragments of conversation, poetry, or images slip across my inner eye. Something will well up from the inside, and ideas and connections leap up like iron filings onto a magnet.
The fifth reason to use trance is demonstration of ability, and this one's kind of intense. Often magicians are tested by being told to enter a trance state at will, and tangential to this, spirits may even test you by placing you under extreme psychic pressure, so that basically you're going through an underworld initiatory experience in a very short amount of time. Hine says that some spirits will go as far as to drive you absolutely bananas before they ever yield their wisdom to you. Like, this is sort of a built-in thing of magic. This is particularly true of psychedelics because anyone who's eaten enough psychedelic stuff, well, you probably know that every now and then the spirits will have to kick your ass before you're allowed to have any fun. Likewise, being able to go into trance may help you be able to get through that, or being able to go into a trance may be necessary for the chemicals to work. Of course, this speaks to the wizard's ability to enter into liminal states. Properly speaking, at least the way it's explained in the text, liminal states are the state of mind between waking and dreaming. If we're good, we can push our awareness beyond the boundaries of normal time and space to a domain of otherness and tune into the unknown. One way to hone this ability and work within liminal states is scrying. Now, scrying can be performed using any reflective surface, but a shiny black surface is best. You can even use a bowl filled with dark fluid, like chocolate sauce.
Hey!
Don't get any weird ideas. Naturally, being able to scry involves entering a light trance and being receptive to whatever daydream, visions, or otherworld intrusions or pictures tend to rise up in the awareness. These are explained a lot like the things you see or experience before falling asleep. The idea is not to squint like a dope or expend so much concentration you begin to look and feel constipated. Generally, you want to be in a dimly lit location, like a dungeon or a dusty shed behind the barn, where you keep the collection of household appliances made out of animal bones and Pokemon cards. Candlelight is ideal, but not reflecting into the surface itself. Be careful not to set your hair on fire. The trick is to relax and allow impressions to arise to the mind. If at first you don't succeed, practice will eventually prevail. And when you see the face of Gengar in the mirror, you know you've achieved the rank of Double Crowley. Keep that in mind. What if you'd like to hear the rest of the show, where we get into the meat and potatoes of the subject to talk about the magical will, the creation and launching of sigils? It's always good to go over sigil magic again, right? How to make them work at their highest possible efficacy, and get into the sorcerer's toy box along with all of the various different tools and toys that you can use to manifest your reality and dominate the cosmos. Then please visit www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit, where where your monthly donation of just $5 a month will not only get you this extended episode, you'll get all our extended episodes, and you'll get access to our Discord server where you can tell us about the high quality 5x5 vinyl sticker that I'm also going to send you at no additional cost, which if used properly can deflect the directed energy weapons that are being aimed at your place of residence right now.
See, I didn't get one of these stickers, and that's why I'm having brain issues currently in life.
It works just as well as a tinfoil hat, if not better.
I owe Malcor many stickers and patch and more stickers. Some of them are actually pretty shiny. They shimmer, holographic. Until next time, thank you everybody. Eat carrots and shoe lasers.
Pew, pew, pew.